Hey everyone, welcome to the Morning Grind podcast. Today is Memorial Day, May 29th, 2023. I am not Stevie. He's traveling for NASCAR. He's down in Charlotte. Unfortunately, the NASCAR race got rained out Sunday night, so that'll be taking place later on this afternoon. Happy Memorial Day to everyone. Thank you to everyone who has served in our military, especially those who have made the ultimate sacrifice that allows us to live the lives that we do today. Certainly great for all of those men and women. Fortunately, we are here to break down some baseball, and I am joined by the Chief. It's Will Priester. Will, how are you doing today?
I'm good, man. Another day, another slate. Thank you to all the veterans and everyone that served in the country, and I've got and all the active duty members. I've got tons of people in my family. I feel like half of my family served. I've got nephews that have just graduated high school, and they're going to serve. One's in the Air Force. One's going to go into the Army. And so, just thank you to everyone, man. And we just really appreciate it.
Absolutely, certainly do. And we certainly want to remember all those that have fallen on this Memorial Day. But let's get into some baseball. We've got 6 games. We're going to break down the early slate. There is a 4-game night slate as well, but we are focusing on the 6-game early slate for this one. We are going to go ahead and jump right in. So we'll get started with Cleveland at Baltimore. Got an 8 total in this one. Baltimore about a minus 140 favorite here. We've got Logan Allen going for Cleveland, and we have Tyler Wells going for the Baltimore Orioles. We'll go ahead and start with Logan Allen here, 8,100 on DraftKings. Are we interested in Logan Allen?
Even though it's a small state, I don't think so. Going into Baltimore, I know Baltimore did not have the greatest performance on the prior slate. Didn't quite, pile up the runs like perhaps we all thought. But I'm not playing Allen here against Baltimore. 8,100. I've got plenty of options, even on a small slate. He's going to get the X button.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there. Baltimore's a really solid offense. They haven't struck out very much against lefties. They have the 5th lowest strikeout rate in baseball against left-handed pitching, 19.7%. So Logan Allen's a nice prospect. He's off to a pretty good start this year. Just an average K rate guy, though. I think we can find better options, at least better matchups for sure. So I'm passing on Allen as well. Other side of this game, we've got Tyler Wells against a low strikeout Cleveland offense. He's up at 9K. How are we feeling about Tyler Wells?
Man, so Tyler Wells has been this mixed bag for me this season. And for those of you that follow along with me on some of the pick'em sites, I just seem to get this guy wrong all the time, Keith. And what I mean by wrong is he will give up runs. He'll also get the strikeouts. It's a weird conundrum dealing with him. Like if you look at for everyone that's a game log watcher, like he's had some good games, but very rarely does he get out of any game without giving up any runs. And at 9K against Cleveland is not a high-powered offense by any stretch of the imagination this year, but I don't think it's worth it. Now, look, he could go out and mow down this Cleveland team today, and I wouldn't be shocked, like, if he got the 20 fantasy points. Like, it wouldn't be like, oh, my gosh. But we've got other options today that I like more, which we'll talk about a guy that's slightly higher priced than him that I think is a much better option, especially in terms of strikeouts. So I'm going to pass on Wells. But given some of the guys under Wells, like in this cheaper range, if you said, well, you were going to play Wells, I wouldn't say, I wouldn't tell you absolutely no. Like I'm pretty much at absolutely no for Allen. I'm not quite absolutely no for Wells, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I think you said that really well. Like you can't argue with what Tyler Wells is doing. He's definitely taken a step forward this season. Price tag up at 9K in a matchup against Cleveland, who's one of the lower strikeout teams in baseball. He just feels a little bit overpriced. We've got 3 really strong options just ahead of him in the pricing tier on this slate that we're going to get to and break down for sure. So I'm with you, just a little bit overpriced. he's definitely taken a step forward. I wouldn't try to talk anybody out of playing him because, like you, I think he can have some success. He should be able to go 6 or maybe even 7 innings in this one.
Yeah.
A little worried about the strikeouts against Cleveland, though. So just feels a touch overpriced for the matchup. All right. Shout out to Todd Cream in chat. He said the Strider 8.5 was exciting today. It certainly was. I wrote that up for scores and odds. I think he had 1 strikeout in the first 2 innings. It was looking pretty deep there for a minute.
It was absolutely 1, but hey, look, I'll say this. With guys that have the stuff, man,
he's never dead, right? He can always come back and cover for you.
Like never. So here's the thing, right? Especially with props like that. One strikeout the side inning, and you're literally like right back on track. It's so crazy. He strikes out 3 in an inning, and you're like, wait a minute, we were dead, but now we're ready to roll again.
And that's exactly what he did. I think it was the 4th inning. He came out and struck out the side, and it's like, okay, pitch count looks okay. We're still live. So he did end up getting there. Just amazing talent, man. That dude is just the best pitcher on the planet, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to this Cleveland-Baltimore game. Let's talk about some hitters here. Any Cleveland bats you're interested? We talked about Wells and how he's had some decent success this year. Not a lot of power in this Cleveland offense. What do you got for me?
I mean, so here's the thing. You can always play Jose Ramirez. I do think Jose Ramirez is like super talented. I'd love for him to get out of Cleveland. I'll just say that. But I'm not afraid of Jose Ramirez this year. Does that make any sense? Like, the guy's amazing. He's not going to strike out. But, like, am I really scared of Jose right now? Obviously, with me saying that, he's going to hit 2 home runs tomorrow and maybe eat my words. But I'm not afraid of this offense. I think there are better places. And so, ironically, in baseball, as the slate gets smaller, my player pool typically gets smaller as well. I try to really condense it so that if I hit the nuts, I want to win it all. I don't want to be wasting, percentages on a bunch of Cleveland players. Straight up, I think I take Jose Ramirez and that's it. But I don't even know if I'm going to get to him today.
Yeah, kind of right there with you. Ramirez is obviously a fantastic hitter, but the power is definitely down this year. Just 6 home runs this year. He's kind of taken the mold of the entire offense. They just make a lot of contact, but without much authority. You've got Quan there at 4,200. He offers a little bit of stolen base upside. After Wells, though, this bullpen in Baltimore has been really good as well. So just not a great matchup. Not one of the better offenses in baseball. In fact, they've been way down from like a WRC plus perspective, a WOBA perspective. I just looked it up. They're actually dead last in baseball from WRC plus, 75 against right-handed pitching. It's been a real struggle for Cleveland this year. I think I'm out as well. I think you could maybe chase a home run here with somebody like Josh Naylor, Mike Zunino, even as cheaper guys you might be able to find a home run with, but definitely not a stack for me.
Yeah.
How about the Baltimore side? We've got a young pitcher, young lefty on the mound in Logan Allen. You interested in picking on him at all?
Yeah, listen, man. I've been just taking Ryan Mountcastle against lefties all year. Every time, without fail, whether he hits a home run, whether he hits a double, or doesn't matter. Like, the K rate's low, the ISO is up, walk rate's been intact. Like, he's been really good against lefties this season. So I like him a ton. Obviously, you can play Rutschman. Rutschman doesn't have the ISO numbers, but I mean, if you're stacking Baltimore, I don't think you make a stack without him. And even Cedric Mullins, believe it or not, if he cracks the lineup, he's been fine against lefties. Like, I don't think a lot of people realize that his K rate's fine. I think it's 19% or less, like in lefty spots, and the ISO's been okay. So this team is, and this should tell you how good this team has been doing. Like, Cedric Mullins is 5,200, Rutschman is 5K, Mountcastle is 4,500. Prior to this season, most of the guys we were playing on Baltimore were 3K, 4K, and less. So that should tell you how this offense has been performing. I don't hate Santander either. So, for instance, Santander has a high K rate, but his ISO is above 200. Like, this team, if they get rolling against the lefty Allen today, he could be in for a tough time on the mound. Austin Hayes, everybody, Urias even, what's the shortstop? Mateo has actually been better against righties than lefties, but even still in the 9-hole, he's been hitting fine. I like him too. So overall, I do want to stack him with Baltimore today.
Yeah, I do as well. Just a really talented offense. Mountcastle and Santander have just been amazing against left-handed pitching. 4,500 for Mountcastle is jumping off the page as one of the top plays on the entire slate. Santander, like you mentioned, lots of power. Mullins, it depends on where he hits in the order for me. If he leads off, I'm certainly fine with him, lefty, and they've been moving him around a little bit. Sometimes he'll bat lower in the order against lefties. But if he's in that leadoff spot, certainly include him in your stacks. Even if he's lower in the order, you can as well. Just paying 5,200 for him if he's batting like 6th or 7th is a little bit tougher. Great call by Jason. Austin Hayes has had a really good season here. He's 3,700. He's in the midst of a true breakout here. Just amazing numbers. For whatever reason, he's been a little bit better against righties as well. But I certainly don't mind that $3,700 price tag. Urias is a platoon bat that is generally in there against a lefty. So great call. Another cheap bat. Good way to help you fit the Rutschman and Mountcastle and Mullins if you want to go that route. Certainly some value pieces to add in here as well.
For sure.
All right, moving along, we have the Texas Rangers visiting the Detroit Tigers. Rangers minus 175 favorite here, 8.5 total in the game. Couple of solid veteran pitchers on the mound. We've got Nate Eovaldi for the Rangers and Matthew Boyd for the Tigers. Eovaldi, the highest priced pitcher on the slate, but man, he has been getting it done this season. He has put together a great year so far. Are we paying up for Eovaldi today, Will?
I think you can. And here's something I will say. Detroit has not been bad the past 3 weeks or 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. When I looked at the data, like they're actually not striking out nearly as much as they have been in previous seasons. And so if you don't look at it, you don't know that, but they have not been striking out. Well, guess what? The secret to Eovaldi is kind of not his strikeouts. It's them letting him go 111 pitches. I mean, he's been able to, and to me, Eovaldi is almost like some of the old school pitchers. He's not Nolan Ryan or Greg Smoltz or, Greg Maddux, John Smoltz. Sorry.
Combine the two.
Yeah, I'm saying he's not those guys.
That would be an awesome pitcher, by the way.
Right.
You get Smoltz's fastball with Maddox's control and his changeup. Man, now that's a pitcher.
Be amazing. He's not those guys, but he's kind of starting to get into what I consider an old school pitching frame of mind. He wants to go deep he wants to be efficient. I feel like he's sacrificed, in my opinion, a little bit of strikeout stuff to get quicker outs and get his team to the finish line. And so thus when he's at 90 pitches at 8 innings, they're like, well, just let him go back out in the ninth. Close this thing out. Save our bullpen for tomorrow. And that's the Eovaldi that I think we're going to get today or on this particular slate. And the reason I'm saying that is one of the things you're going to need to keep the ball on the ground a lot, right? And then you're going to need to try to limit some power. And then if you can do those couple of things, typically you're going to be okay. Well, his ground ball rate's 52%, and his hard hit rate is around 33%. He's pretty much keeping the ball on the ground on both sides, 53% to righties, 50% to lefties, and 34% hard power to lefties, 31% hard power to righties. So ISO at under 100 to lefties and at 142 to righties, WOBA 211 to lefties, WOBA 299 to righties. So he's pretty much keeping the ball on the ground, limiting the power. And if you can do that, you can eat through innings. And that's what we're seeing from Nathan Eovaldi this season. And I mean, it's really helped this team a lot.
Yeah, the leash is something that I'm glad that you pointed that out, because that's something I definitely wanted to speak on as well. He's got 2 complete games, which you just don't see complete games anymore. Over 100 pitches. Yeah, 2 in his last 5 starts. Over 100 pitches in 4 of those 5 starts. Dude is pitching regularly into the 8th and 9th inning, which it's just, you don't see it at all anymore in this day and age. Sandy Alcantara did it a bunch last year, but outside of that, like he lapped the field and complete games by, I think he doubled up the next closest guy. Looks like Eovaldi's kind of on track to do something similar to that this season. He's been up as high as 113 pitches. Like you said, not a huge strikeout guy, and Detroit is middle of the pack this year in strikeouts against righties. Not quite, I mean, still a really good matchup, but not quite the absolute elite best matchup in the world like they were last season. So good points. I think you can certainly pay up there all the way to 10-5. He should go deep into this game. I think you can lock in 7 innings with upside for 9. Probably only going to get you 6-ish strikeouts, but that's okay as long as he can limit the damage against him. Should go really deep in the game. Yeah, I think I like the ceiling of the 2 guys below him, but certainly feel really good about his ability to go very deep here.
So here's the thing. Again, I didn't think we were going to spend this much time on Eovaldi, but it just kind of happened organically, obviously. The thing about it, man, he's throwing cutter and splitter. And I always say this, guys that throw the splitter, they're typically problems for everybody. Like you see Kevin Gausman giving guys problems. Eovaldi's giving people problems. There's one other pitcher I think that I know of that throws the splitter pretty heavy. I think it's Joe Ryan. I could be wrong on that, but I feel like it's Joe Ryan. But guys that are throwing the splitter right now, they're just causing serious problems. And,
Joe Ryan and Logan Gilbert's another guy who's added a splitter this year. Yeah.
Yes. So if you notice those guys, look at how their K rates have kind of come up a little bit.
Yep.
And Eovaldi, I think Eovaldi's throwing his more to keep them off balance because he's got a fastball cutter as well, which is going to help him keep the ball on the ground. And, I mean, really, that's what you're seeing. I'm saying all that to say if Eovaldi's around anywhere near 80 pitches in the 6th inning, he's either going 7 or 8 easy. Like, it's going to happen. So, I think he's been priced up for a reason. I really like him, and it feels like the leash is there unless he just gets absolutely destroyed early.
All right, let's go ahead and flip on over to the other side here. Matthew Boyd, he's cheap, 6,900 on DK. This Texas offense has been really good here, however. So how are we feeling about Boyd? Do we need to save some money? Are there offenses we want to pay up for? I know there's some pitching we want to pay up for. Can you use Boyd as an SP2?
I can't. I wanted to, but listen, as bad, not as bad, as good as they've been against right-handed pitching recently, and how they've come along, they've been better against left-handed pitching. I can't do it. Like they're worse against righties, and they've been okay against lefties. This team hardly strikes out at all. Like I'll give you the K rates just to support what we're talking about, but I think Simeon's at 19, Seager's at 8, Loa's at 19. 21 for Garcia, 22 for Jung, 12 for Hine, 20 for Jankowski. Robbie Grossman's not doing great at 31, but then they got Taveras at 13. Like, this is a low strikeout team against lefties. I can't do it.
Yeah, I tried to make this work too, but Texas is quite scary. Numbers against lefty, 359 WOBA and 130 WRC plus. Both of those are the or top 3 numbers in baseball. So Texas has been really, really good against left-handed pitching. Boyd has been okay this year.
Yes.
Strikeout rate of 21%-ish, not great. Walks are usually a problem with him, 9.6%. But he's had some success. So I like you, I was trying to make this work.
If he was facing another team, I might have taken him today.
Yeah, completely agree with that. It's just a tough matchup. So I'll try to avoid it. If I absolutely need the salary, I don't mind it. If you have reasons you think Boyd's going to have success against Texas, go ahead and fire him up. I do like the price tag, but that matchup is quite scary. Not a ton of good pitching options down here in this range, though. So if you wanted to throw a dart, I don't think it's the craziest idea. All right, how about these Texas bats against Boyd? Just talked about some of the numbers they've thrown up against lefties.
Yeah, and I talked about the K rates, but the ISO numbers: Seager 217, Garcia obviously who's been scorching the ball 256 ISO, Jung 319, Hine 194, even Jankowski 250 ISO lefty. I like Texas. I plan on stacking Texas on the Memorial Day slate, and we'll see what happens here.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I certainly think you can look for some home runs. I don't mind the full stack either. Just Boyd's walk rate over 9.5% is certainly an issue. And then he's got that big fly ball rate. He's had a home run problem his whole career. So Simeon and Seager, Garcia, all of them are expensive. It's a pricey stack. So it's difficult to make work today, but I think that helps keep their ownership down. And there's certainly plenty of salary savers you can find with your secondary stack. Pitching, it's tough to save money today, but I do think that you can find some cheap guys to throw in there alongside of them so that you can get up to the Simeons and the Seagers. But great spot here for Texas. Tougher ballpark in Detroit, but like with their numbers against lefties, I think you have to take a couple of shots on them today.
Yeah, for sure.
Then we've got the Tigers on the other side. We talked about Eovaldi and his ground ball rate and how deep he can go into games. How about Detroit? Any interest there?
I'm fading Detroit today, man. And look, they've been much improved. I can't do it. If his leash is too long, balls on the ground too much. I don't. And honestly, in this matchup, he may still get the strikeouts and have the leash. I'm not playing Detroit today.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't want to stack them. You could find a couple of cheap guys here if, like we were just talking about, trying to stack Texas. Like if you wanted to take a shot on, like, I don't know, McKinstry's been pretty good, but his price is coming up.
Yeah.
Torkelson, or we just keep waiting on that power to show up. He's only 2,800. Badu at 2,600. Ibanya is 2,500. If you wanted to find some value here, I don't hate maybe using two pieces, but definitely not a full stack. Eovaldi's just too solid of a pitcher. All right, moving on here, we have the Kansas City Royals visiting the St. Louis Cardinals. No total in this game. I think that's because we don't quite know the starting pitching situation for the Royals. They have listed right now as Josh Staumann as an opener. He's purely a reliever, probably just a one-inning guy. And DraftKings is marking Mike Mayers as the guy who's going to follow him potentially as the bulk reliever. Mayers coming off an outing that I think surprised everybody. He struck out a bunch of Tigers his last time out, but he had some awful numbers in AAA. He is opposed by Adam Wainwright on the other side, who, man, it's been a rough go for Mr. Wainwright since coming back from that leg injury.
And he's older. He's just older.
Yeah, he's over 40 now. Just he's at the end. I believe he's already announced this will be his last season. Let's go ahead and start with this situation on the Kansas City side. I'm going to assume that it's Mike Mayers. Obviously, keep an eye on this situation. Bulk relievers and things like that. There's always some risk there. They can certainly change their plans throughout the day. So just double check that in the morning and leading up to lock. Make sure that Mayers is still indeed the guy. But are you interested at all in a tough matchup here with St. Louis?
This is a tough spot. He's 5,400. And I think I'm going to – so let me say this. Single entry, 3-entry max, not at all. If I'm anywhere near 150, I think I sprinkle a few in. And look, I don't want to do it because facing St. Louis is a tall task for any pitcher. They got the early, there's going to be an early game today. They're at home. I think Mayers has a tough time here, but for 5,400, when we're talking about whenever I can get a pitcher at the same price I can get a bat, and they've got some reasonable strikeout stuff, I want to take a couple shots just in case. I don't think he can take strikeouts. If he goes four innings, 5 strikeouts, gives up a run, it's still worth it to me. I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to compare him to Boyd, and I think his matchup is a little bit easier than Boyd. He saves you a little bit of money. If Kansas City somehow pulls off the upset here, like the being in the position of the long reliever actually helps his win equity a little bit. Not that we're ever chasing pitcher wins or anything, but you certainly wouldn't mind getting those 4 points. Or 6 points, whatever
6,
it is.
Yeah, 4 on DK, 6 on FanDuel. But he'd be more valuable on DK today than he would be on FanDuel for sure.
Yeah, when he's your only pitcher, like on a one-pitcher site like FanDuel, that's a lot tougher. You generally want a little bit more ceiling. But as an SP2 on a really bad slate for cheap pitching, I don't hate a couple of dart throws. All right, Kansas City bat. Let's talk about Wainwright first, I suppose. I mentioned it's been a rough.
I'm not playing Wainwright, so have at it. I'm not playing.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a rough go. He's a better pitcher than how he's pitching now, but I think it's the end of the line for him. He's only managed 10% strikeouts through a couple of starts here. he's shown that typically good control, and I think he's going to strike out more than 10% of batters he faces this season. But I really need to see it a couple of times first. Kansas City's a pretty decent matchup. He's cheap. We just talked about the rough pitching slate. So if you wanted to play him, I wouldn't tell you you're crazy for it. Just because I do think there's something left in the tank here. He just hasn't shown it yet. But because of the matchup and the price, if you want to throw a dart, certainly fine. I'm going to try to avoid that at all costs if possible. I think I'd rather take shots on Mayer's strikeout upside. Probably a little bit more risk with Mayers because St. Louis is a stronger opponent. But I think there's a little more strikeout upside from Mayers. So I'd prefer Mayers when deciding between the two. Bats look pretty good in this game. What do you got for me on the Kansas City side?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm going to stack Kansas City, man. Pasquantino, Melendez, Witt. If I'm stacking him, I will get to some Salvador Perez. Now, I do think Sal might be slightly overpriced this season so far, but I mean, look, he's going through kind of a pretty good stretch here recently where I think he's hit at least 3 home runs here, 2 or 3 home runs in this past couple, maybe 10 starts or so. So he's going through a nice little stretch right now, so I get it. And I would include him in my stacks, but all in all, this Kansas City spot, purely a stack spot. I don't think I'm going to one-off them today per se. I think if I'm going to stack them, I'm going to get all the good hitters in.
Yeah, I like Kansas City a good amount. Wainwright hasn't been able to miss many bats. You've got a little power in there with Bobby Witt, Pasquantino. Melendez has been playing every day in the outfield.
I was lucky enough to catch the Bobby Witt 3 home run game the other night too.
Yeah, he had been scuffling a little bit, so good to see him break out. We know he's one of the most talented guys in all of baseball, so good to see him back on track. That power and speed upside is certainly something that you want in your lineups today for sure.
Yeah. And
then you have cheap guys that help make everything work too. Olivares under 3K, Prado at 3,200.
Yeah.
Michael Massey at 2,200 if he's in the lineup. Like, I really like how this Kansas City stack sets up. And Wainwright, he's not going to be even an above average K rate guy at this point. So good spot for Kansas City.
And I think he cares, but he doesn't care. Like, this is his last hurrah. He's built this organization so long. They're going to let him pitch every game, and just, hey man, thank you for your service. And I think that's the way it should be. He's been very loyal to them. So Good for him.
All right, how about St. Louis bats? You've got the opener situation, but I think we're getting at least 3, 4, maybe 5 innings out of Mayers. So it's not like we have a mix and match bullpen game, which are difficult to pick on sometimes. Myers had some rough AAA numbers. I know he had some success last time out against Detroit, but St. Louis, one of the better offenses in baseball. Are you stacking them up today?
I don't know if I stack St. Louis. I think I'm going to hunt for power with them. So that's going to be Gorman. That'll be, Goldschmidt. Goldschmidt's been, the power against righties this season has actually been ridiculous. Incredible, really. So that's what I'm going to do with St. Louis. And so that means I may end up with, 2 or 3 St. Louis bats in a lineup or something. And if so, I'm perfectly fine with that. But for sure, Gorman, Goldschmidt. Donovan's got a little bit of pop as well. So I don't hate him. But I'm not going to full stack St. Louis. But I will end up on some lineups where I probably have 2 to 3 bats.
Yeah, I like the mini stack a lot. Love that call. Newt Barr has been leading off a lot, 4,200. Love the Gorman call. He's probably my favorite bat. Him and Goldschmidt for sure. Certainly can play Contreras as a catcher, 4,200. Edman, he's been hitting down in the order, but second base is always a weak position, 3,900 there. I like the Donovan call as well, 3K for him. Really nice price tag. Burleson's been seeing some time in the outfield. He's 2,400. So I have some interest in the full stack, just because you've got those cheap value guys. Like if you want to throw Donovan and Burleson in there with Gorman, Goldschmidt, and Newt Barr, something like that, I do like the full stack.
Yeah.
But don't mind the mini stack either. Definitely think you could find some home runs here.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, moving on to the next one here. In Wrigley Field, you've got the Tampa Bay Rays visiting the Chicago Cubs. We have a 7.5 total in this game. Tampa Bay, a -125 favorite. We've got Taj Bradley, the breakout rookie on the hill for Tampa Bay. He is 9,600. You've got Marcus Stroman on the other side, 8,300. Let's go ahead and start here with Taj Bradley. Interested in paying 9,600 for Taj?
So I'm actually not interested in paying 9,600 for him, but I'm still going to do it. It's just because of the strikeout stuff. I do think he's slightly overpriced for now. But, once again, it's not like the strikeout stuff isn't there. He's still giving up runs. 12 fantasy points isn't going to cut it for 9,600. But I think he has a better shot at giving up less runs today against the Cubs, who have, reverted back to the 2022 Cubs and are now striking out at an incredible clip outside of today against Javier for whatever reason. But no, that was Oakland. Sorry, never mind. Either way, Taj Bradley, this is a good spot for him at 9,600. I will have some. I think I'm going to be under the field though. I think that's the approach I'm going to take with Taj today. I'm probably going to go under the field on him. And I know we haven't gotten to this guy yet, and I'm probably going to go over the field on Sonny Gray. And we'll talk about Sonny Gray when we get there. But I think Bradley might pick up more ownership than Gray because of the name value of the matchup with him facing Houston, who's striking out probably more than the Cubs, but people don't. I think they'll ignore that. And I think Altuve being back helps people ignore that even more and say, oh, they'll get better. But they're striking out a ton. So I will have Bradley, but I think I'm going under the field to get a little bit more Gray exposure.
Can certainly get on board with that. I'll be interested to see where the ownership comes. I agree with you. I think Bradley does come in a little bit higher owned than Sonny Gray just because of the matchup. The Cubs were off to a good start this year offensively, but like you mentioned, it's been a rough go here. As a guy who watches the Cubs every single day, as a massive Cubs fan, it's been really rough out there. They just got swept by the Cincinnati Reds at home. Not a good look. You've got
the Reds are in fuego right now. They're beating everybody.
They are. Yeah, they are.
It's crazy.
But the Cubs are also struggling a ton. Seems like ever since Bellinger went on the IL, they just completely nosedive. Obviously, you had Christopher Morel come up, and he went on a tear there for a minute, but he's cooled off, come back to earth. Yeah. Huge strikeout bat. You've got Wisdom generally in there. He's a huge strikeout bat. So once you get past Horner and Happ does a pretty good job of.
And Horner was hurt for a couple games too, wasn't he? Wasn't he out for a couple games? Yeah.
Yep. I think it was a hamstring. He went on. I think he just spent the minimum 10 days on the IL. But he's back now. He's a low contact bat or a high contact bat, low strikeout. But the rest of the lineup, there's plenty of strikeouts available. And Taj Bradley's been really good this season. Strikeout rate over 33%, and the walk rate is all the way down at 4%. So this is one of the better pitching prospects in baseball, and it's translated to the big league so far. Good matchup against the Cubs. Like you said, play the ownership game if he's really popular, but you want some exposure to Taj, certainly, I think.
Absolutely.
How about Stroman on the other side? 8,300. You've got Tampa Bay, who is one of the best, if not the best offense in baseball. You looking at Stroman at all today?
I am. So here's the thing. Stroman, to me, is the watered-down version of Eovaldi today. The strikeouts aren't going to be there, but if he keeps the ball on the ground, BABIP is going to be his friend. Now, the thing is, he does not have the same leash as Eovaldi. Most of these games, he's not going past 90 pitches. But he's getting through 6. Now, the last game, he got through 8 against the Mets on 88 pitches. This is what I'm talking about. So my assumption is if he had some type of a replicated performance, if he's around 70 pitches in the 6th or, 72-ish, 75, closing out the 6th, he's coming back out. And so with guys like Stroman, that's kind of why I play them in certain spots. He's at home. Do want to see if the wind's blowing in. That may help him a little bit to have a little bit more BABIP on his side when and if balls get hit in the air. So Tampa Bay is an elite offense, in my opinion. Marcus Stroman has always been a ground ball guy. And if BABIP is on his side today, I think he can get you 20 fantasy points, which is what we've seen against Philly. And the Mets, he will not have a lot of strikeouts. He will not. But I think he can get through 6 fairly clean, especially if the weather's on his side. But I'm going to have a sprinkle of him, and that's why I like Stroman. It's less about the strikeouts and more about what I think he can get done actually in the game.
Yeah, I think the comparison to Eovaldi is a great one. Great way to break that down. And you save a significant amount of money, too. It's definitely a more difficult matchup for Stroman, but you get a $2,000 discount. It's going to be tough to spend up for 2 9,500 and above pitchers, and then stack a team like Texas or St. Louis. So I definitely don't mind getting some exposure to Stroman. Like you said, strikeouts probably not going to be there. Tampa Bay is a very scary opponent. The wind blowing in would definitely help because it's a pretty nice ballpark upgrade for Tampa Bay going into Wrigley away from one of the most pitcher-friendly parks in baseball as their home park there in Tampa. So, but 8,300 for Stroman, I'm on board, even in a tough matchup. Just not the strongest pitching slate. It's going to be tough to pay up to 9,500 and above twice. So Stroman makes a lot of sense as an SP2.
Yeah.
All right. Tampa Bay bats against Stroman. Like you mentioned, his ground ball stuff. He's going to go pretty deep into this game. So it makes it stack a little bit tough, but Tampa Bay has been outstanding offensively. Are you stacking them up at all? Or
I'm probably, if I do, I'm on one-off central. Like Wander Franco just doesn't strike out a ton anyway, but you got to pay for it. I'm kind of in between with Franco because I'm like, well, am I going to pay $5,100 for him to hit 3 singles today with barely anybody on base? Maybe. Like I think if you're going to play anybody like straight up one-off, it's probably Brandon Lau. Extreme fly ball hitter, a lot of power. If he gets a hold of one, it's gone. Like, it doesn't matter where he is, it's out of there. He's also the one bat that will probably strike out today, twice maybe. But I do like him at 4,900. He for sure got the power to send it out of the park. So I think if the ultimate one-off is him, and then a sprinkle of a Rosarina who's 5,700, Franco, Lowe. Yandy Diaz has actually been hitting okay, but like I kind of just be one-off in the race. I don't think I'm going to stack them today.
Yeah, they're expensive. And you mentioned Stroman's ground balls. He's got pretty solid control. It's been down a little bit this season. His walk rate has been a little more elevated than in the past, but he certainly has the ability to go out there and not walk a guy over 7 innings. So he's tough to stack against. Gets those double plays that get him out of jams.
Oh man! All the time too, like all the time.
Yep. I do like hunting for home runs. Love the Brandon Lau call. Josh Lowe has been really good this season. Good for him. Has been hitting up at the top of the order. Another cheap guy, Luke Raley, another lefty as well. He's got 10 home runs on the season. Love him for a cheap home run. But yeah, agree with you. Don't love the stack. Probably just looking for a home run. And probably from the left side, most likely. Brandon Lau, awesome call there. All right, Cubs bats on the other side. We mentioned how good Bradley has been this season, and the Cubs have been struggling here recently. What do you got for me on the Cubs?
I don't know if I want to play the Cubs. Like if you told me Trey Mancini was 2,500, I'd be getting excited. Until I looked at what's been happening with this team, I don't think I can play the Cubs today. Once again, I'm running a pretty compressed pool anyway. I've already gotten rid of the Detroit Tigers. I think the Cubs are the next team that I'm just completely Xing out of my list.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Like there's too much strikeout in this lineup. If the wind is blowing in, which the total kind of 7.5 is, even though there's 2 really good pitchers, like 7.5 is a pretty low total here. Wisdom has been way down in the order. Morel is now super expensive. He's been hitting down in the order. Nico Horner's priced up. Like the Cubs are they're overpriced, especially for this matchup.
Why? Yeah.
Especially with their struggles. Like when they were hot, it made sense, but now that
is the wind going to be blowing out though? Like that's what these prices make me feel like. I don't think it is, but that's what this feels like.
Not with a 7.5 total. No.
Yeah. Well, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. All right. Overpriced Cubs. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one here. Minnesota Twins traveling to the Houston Astros.
Oh, yeah.
Houston is a minus-125 favorite here, which I was kind of surprised by. Obviously, they're at home, but Sonny Gray on the hill for Minnesota. JP France for the Houston Astros. Let's go ahead and start here. You said you had a ton of interest in Sonny Gray. Tell me what you got about Sonny.
Listen, man, Houston's been striking out so much. I don't think people realize Sonny Gray's actually been really good this season overall. The walk rate's a bit high. I think his walk rate's around 10% or like 9.5. So let's just call it 10. but his K rate's around 30.
9.3.
Okay, yeah.
Yep. And 29.2 on the strikeout rate. So
yeah, and his xFIP's 3.5, 3.4, 3.5, something like that.
Yep.
Point out the larger point is outside of the walks, Sonny Gray's been really good this season. And this is the Sonny Gray we were playing when he was in Oakland. He was all over the place. Most of his starts are pretty consistent. This season, I see TC in there saying Houston getting their swagger back with Altuve. I want people to take this approach. Trust me, Houston's still striking out. And they're still striking out a ton. Is Altuve going to help them long term? Like, for sure. Like, absolutely. But Altuve still has to kind of get in a groove. He's just been out sick for, 3-4 games. And Sonny Gray, Sonny Gray should have a great day on the mound today. And that also doesn't mean he comes out of this game unscathed. He could very well give up two or three runs. I think Sonny Gray has 8 to 9 strikeout potential today. I really do. And for that reason, I may, in the end, I may end up with more Sonny Gray than Eovaldi for that reason. Like, in the end of it all, if Babbitt's on his side, he doesn't get rocked and doesn't walk the wrong guy and give up a 2-run shot or something, Sonny Gray could be sitting at 30 fantasy points on this slate. I really like what I'm seeing, and I plan to have a ton of Sonny Gray today.
I love this take, Will. You mentioned it. Eovaldi, just 500 more, has an awesome matchup against Detroit. We just got done breaking down Taj Bradley and how good of a strikeout spot it is for him against the Cubs, potentially with a little wind blowing in at Wrigley. I don't think anybody's playing Sonny Gray against Houston today, sandwiched in between probably the two best pitchers on the slate. So
for sure.
Great spot to get a low, even though it's only a 6-game slate. I think you're getting a much lower than the other two guys we just talked about. Sonny Gray at 10K against Houston. Love the call. He's been striking out a ton of people this season. This is not the same low strikeout Houston offense. Like, once you get down to Abreu in the order, like they've been hitting him like 6, I think. It's just red on the strikeouts. They're all over 20%, like Jolks and McCormick or Myers if he's in there.
Maldonado. Here's the thing. The only guy that has limited plate appearances this season is Altuve. Everybody else has been there. Like, that's it. Altuve's at 27% right now. I think Altuve ends the season somewhere between 19 and 21. Like, to be quite honest with you. But Pena, 28%. Abreu, 23. Jokes, 29. Myers, 26. McCormick, 28. Like, Diaz is at 17. And, of course, Bregman's always been a low K-rate guy. And Alvarez is at 19 because he has platoon advantage. But other than that, like, this team, my God, they're striking out like crazy. And he's probably going to get Altuve at least once. So I like Gray today. Hopefully I've stated my case and it makes sense. And I'm going to have plenty of Sonny Gray.
Absolutely. Love it. All right, let's jump on over to the other side. Minnesota, a team that has been striking out a ton as well. We've got JP France at 7K. Is this finally a cheap pitcher that we can play on the slate here?
I want to. So here's the funny part about France. He's had 3 what I call fairly good starts and 1 where he got touched up by the Cubs. And what I will say is at 7K, folks, if we're talking about Houston striking out, you don't even want to know what Minnesota's doing. Pretty much their whole lineup's 25% or above. Yeah. That's actually not an exaggeration. Like, these are the facts. If he can have a start anywhere close to what he did in Milwaukee, like, I would take 6 innings, 5 strikeouts, and not give up any runs at 7K. Like, that'd be fantastic. So I'm in for JP. He's probably my top cheap play outside of me sprinkling in a little bit of Mayer because he's 5,400. Like, this is the cheap play on the slate, which is another reason why I just see no reason to play Matthew Boyd when JP France has got the matchup. Boyd has a higher K rate, but France has a much better matchup here. The only problem is, and this is kind of the weird thing with Minnesota, strikeouts are up, but this team hits for a lot of power. He puts it in the wrong spot, it's gone. And that's so you're hoping Joey Gallo and Buxton and Polanco, you're just hoping he can avoid the home run, because if there's any bad location tomorrow, doesn't matter how high these K rates are, the ball's going out in Tropicana. So that's my only concern with Minnesota. Other than that, I'm in on JP for sure.
Yeah, I think you broke that down perfectly. I don't have much to add other than to just add a few stats behind it. Minnesota's second highest K rate against righties in all of baseball, 25.7% as a team. Like you mentioned, just everybody at 25% or above. France is not a huge strikeout guy. He's been around 20% so far on the season. I think there's room up on that a little bit, but it's the matchup. It's definitely a boom bust spot here. Tough Minnesota offense. They've been above average this season, but those strikeouts and the price tag on France at 7K, I think it's worth targeting on this short slate. Absolutely.
Yeah. I will say this in this spot, and I know we haven't got to the bats already. I'm going to play France, and I think I'm also going to stack Minnesota in this spot. Yeah. That's how I'm going to approach it. I don't do that on all slates, as you know, because I'm clearly not playing some of these pitchers. But I think on this particular slate, I'd be in on stacking Minnesota and playing France, hands down.
Yep, I agree. I think I could see this going either way. Let's go ahead and jump into those Minnesota bats. You talked about all the power that they have. Who are you liking here for Minnesota?
Man, everybody, probably except the bottom. Listen, man, Gallo 371 ISO, Julian 350, Buxton 261, Castro 236, Wallner 267. Now he's got very limited plate appearances, but this team is hitting for a lot of power, a ton of power, and so those are the guys I would be playing. I'm not going to play them against France, but I am going to stack them outside of some of my France lineups.
Yeah, love that call. France is a solid pitcher, but I don't think he's not anyone to be terrified of. These Minnesota bats, there's some cheap ones in there. Kirilloff at 3,600 is jumping out at me. Wallner is a guy who got the call here recently. Decent prospect for them. He's 2,300. Julien is a solid prospect. He's 2,900. So you can add those cheap guys into your Buxton, your Gallo. And the Minnesota stack is honestly pretty affordable. So I'm in as well. Even though I'm playing some France, I will also have some Minnesota stacks on this slate. Could see that one going either way. All right. You're playing a ton of Sonny Gray. You've got Houston on the other side. Obviously, they're a solid offense too, but we just talked about how good Gray has been this season. What do you got on Houston?
Yeah, I think on Houston, man, I think I will have to one-off some Alvarez. And if Tucker's in the lineup, maybe Tucker, but that's it. I don't think I'm playing anyone else from Houston. I think outside of that, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. They're expensive. They have a really tough matchup against Sonny Gray here. Yes, he can get a little wild with the walks, but that strikeout rate has really allowed him to have some success this season. We talked about all the strikeouts at the bottom of the Houston order. If you wanted to do an Alvarez, Tucker, Altuve, even Bregman, the only problem is they're all over 5K. So it's really expensive. Right. We know we want to pay up for pitching on this slate. I think you're going to have an Eovaldi or a Bradley. Obviously, you're not playing Gray against a Houston stack, but Eovaldi or Bradley, I think, is what you would want to do. And that's tough to do with the guys you want to play are all 5K and above. So I don't think I'll be getting to much Houston today.
Yep, me either. All
right, last game on this little 6-game Memorial Day slate here. We have the Colorado Rockies traveling to the Arizona Diamondbacks. 9.5 total in this game, highest on the slate. Arizona, big -190 favorite here. We have Carl Kaufman going for Colorado. We have Ryan Nelson for Arizona. Let's go ahead and start it off with Mr. Kaufman here. Hasn't been able to strike anybody out this season. What do you got on Carl Kaufman?
I'm not nothing. I'm not playing him.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a rough go. He's 14% strikeout rate. That's what he was in AAA too. So it's not like he just hasn't quite figured it out and there's more strikeouts coming. He is 4,800 and he's a person that will be throwing baseballs that could potentially score you DFS points. That's about the best case you can make for him. 4,800, just find the couple hundred to get up to Mayers, who has real strikeout upside. Arizona's been a really actually above average offense, somewhat surprisingly this season. Kaufman doesn't do it for me either. How about Ryan Nelson? Big favorite, 6,700. Weak Colorado offense. Any interest in Nelson?
Nope.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. like just a below average K rate guy. I'm not scared of the Colorado offense, but Nelson has a 16% K rate. Very concerned about the upside. Definitely think JP France, like even with a tougher matchup, we talked about the upside in the Minnesota with the Minnesota strikeout rate. So I think you just find a way to get up to JP France for a couple hundred more.
Yeah.
How about bats? Any interest here in stacking up some Colorado?
Yeah, I actually like both sides of this game. And look, I know Colorado's it's not been sensational, but all in all, I mean, I think it's a good spot for them. Nelson isn't anything I'm worried about. And with it being an earlier game tomorrow, it's 4:10 Eastern time, so I think it's going to be 2:10 in Arizona. I think, or maybe 1:10.
1:10. We're on Pacific time this time of year. Yep.
Okay, so 1:10 in Arizona. Look, man, I assume the roof may be open for this one. I like both sides of this game. Like, I don't necessarily have like a specific bat, maybe outside of Carroll or Marte, that I'm like, yeah, I'm probably absolutely going to play them. But all in all, I think you can stack both sides of this game. I'm not afraid of either pitcher in this game whatsoever.
Man, you brought up something there. It's 96 degrees right now in Arizona as I'm sitting here. It's going to be 100 tomorrow.
Oh, well, maybe
probably not. But that 9.5 total, it could be. I'll see if I can find that here once we start breaking down bats a little bit, but on the Arizona side. But yeah, Colorado, I have some interest. Obviously, they're moving from Colorado into Arizona, but still a good hitter's park in Arizona. Just not a strong offense, but in a low strikeout matchup, I certainly think you can stack up some Colorado bats. Don't love the price.
Been hitting really well, really well recently.
Yep, good for him. Very nice price too, 4,500. Don't hate that. Nolan Jones.
Fact, is it Blackman? How many games is it now on his hitting streak? Like he's getting real close to like this being noticed in terms of like how many games he's had a hit. He's had a hit every day since looks like May 8th. Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah, good for him. Like you said, he's been on a tear. Oh, I see May 17th. It looks like he went hitless, so it did get broken. But yeah,
that's what it is.
Like, yeah.
Okay.
But really solid year. Good bounce back season for Blackman. You get a righty that doesn't strike anybody out. I definitely like Blackman here. Nolan Jones at 3,200. A pretty big power prospect who just got called up recently. Like him a lot.
Yeah.
Full stack is in play. Arizona might be one of my favorite stacks on the entire slate.
Oh yeah.
Kaufman is he's not very good. He hasn't showed any skills in the minors. Arizona's been a solid offense overall this season. Corbin Carroll looks like a great young hitter. Perdomo at 3,700 fills a shortstop position. He's been really solid. Obviously, you've got the power of guys like Walker and Gurriel and Marte. Rojas, like I like this spot for Arizona. How about you? Are you interested?
Oh yeah, big Arizona fan for this slate because this is the one team where outside of Carroll and maybe Marte and even he's under 5K, I feel like I can get two reasonably priced pitchers and still stack this team. And so this is one of my favorite spots of the day. Like Kaufman's been bad. And I think Arizona can stick it to him pretty good today. So I like this team a ton.
Yep. Love that point about the pricing. Like outside of Carroll at 5,100, they're all 4,500. Basically, Marte's 4,700, but Walker's 4,400 and everybody else is cheaper than that. So great call. Yeah. Pretty easy to fit them in alongside a couple of stud pitchers.
Yep.
All right.
And they got Mr. No Strikeout Fletcher there. Anyway, I like this team.
Yep. I'm right there with you. Somehow we managed to make it almost an hour on a 6-game slate. Here.
How did we do that? Listen, people need to be hitting the tip jar on this one. I legit thought we were going to be out in like 30 minutes, but it was a lot of. I think because we knew it was a short slate, we could pile on the
information with our analysis. Yeah,
we could pile on the information.
All right, you want to play the morning grind game real quick before we get on out of here?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's do it. Give me a pitcher under 8K to rack up 6Ks.
We're probably going to be on the same guy because you're hosting. I get the layup, which is JP France.
Yep, you nailed it. That's the guy I had written down first, but I had a feeling you were going to be on him as well. It's pretty ugly outside of that. I'll go with Matthew Boyd. 21% on the season. Texas is a tough matchup, though. I don't officially love it, but it's slim pickings down there outside of France today.
My guess is he comes in at 4.5 on the books. That's my guess.
Yep. I think you're spot on that one. All right, pitcher over AK to score under 15 points. Who is your bust today?
I'm going with Logan Allen. I think it's a tough spot for him in Baltimore.
Yeah, I agree with you. Low strikeouts there for Baltimore as well. If he gives up a home run or two, like it's going to be tough for him to get to 15. I like pretty much everybody else above 8K here on this slate. I think the matchup for Tyler Wells is where I'm going to go. Like 9K just feels a little bit too much for this matchup. I think he can go pretty clean here, but I'm worried about strikeouts for him against this Cleveland offense. Cleveland's been a rough offense, so I think he probably lands in that like 13 to 18 range of fantasy points. But because I don't see the upside there today, I'll go with Wells as my bust.
I like it.
Over 4K to hit a home run.
I'm going to stay in that Arizona game. Give me Corbin Carroll, 5,100.
Took my guy again. That is literally who I had written down.
Man.
Love that call. Great spot for Arizona. Carroll's been awesome as well. All right, let me pivot here. Give me Marcus Semien against Matthew Boyd. Had a home run problem his whole season. Simeon's been awesome, like low key awesome this season.
Yeah,
good to see him back in there. He's expensive today, but love the spot for him against Matthew Boyd. All right, a hitter under 4K to record 2 hits.
We've actually got a fair amount of options today. I think I'm going to Kansas City, and I hope he's a little bit closer to the top today. Give me Melendez at 3,400.
Like that call a lot. I'm going to stick in the same game. I'm going to go to the other side, though. Give me Brendan Donovan. Should hit in the middle of the order. I think he's been down around the 6 hole recently.
He was 5th today, or 5th in the previous slate.
Yep. All right. Who you got for a stack to score 6 or more runs?
All right. I'm not gonna go with Arizona. Give me Texas, man. The K rates are so low. They've been playing so well. I really like this team today.
Yeah, I'm with you on Texas. We both agree Arizona is the top stack on the slate. They're going to be chalky. The pricing is easy. So I'm going to pivot away from Arizona as well. But just noted, we both love Arizona. Give me St. Louis. Mayers was good against Detroit, but I don't know. He was not good in AAA. He wasn't great last year for the Angels, I think it was.
Oh, yeah.
So St. Louis can certainly put up some runs. They're a very talented offense. All right, that will do it. Stevie will be back tomorrow, I believe, although I might have to check with him because the race did get rained out. So he's spending an extra day in Charlotte, which you're down near Charlotte, aren't you? Charleston, I think you are, right?
Yeah, I'm in Charleston, but I used to live in Charlotte. So
that's why I knew you had some connection there to Charlotte. So
Yep.
So not sure if Stevie will be back. I believe I am on the podcast again tomorrow. So I'll be here one way or another, whether I have to find somebody to do it with me or whether Stevie is back. But expecting Stevie back right now, unless we hear otherwise. But Will, you got anything else for the people?
No, man. I mean, this might be the most fun 6-game pod I may ever do.
This is a nice little slate.
6-game pod, yeah, for sure.
Yep, absolutely. Good stuff. And so thank you for joining me. Like I said, hopefully Stevie back tomorrow for you guys. I will be here one way or the other, but appreciate everybody tuning in. Have a fantastic, safe, and happy Memorial Day. See you later, everybody.